raised her hands and asked everyone to stay calm, informing them that she had already confirmed with the authorities that this region of Shanghai was safe. They were far from the flood zone, so that alert had been more of a precaution for them. Not to mention that Palace 104 wasn't at any risk, so they could enjoy the evening. Some more suspicious guests left, but most breathed a sigh of relief. In minutes, the music was back on and champagne for everyone, man. The party resumed. At that moment, Xiaojing rushed in looking for his sister after the flood news. In the middle of the ballroom, Mao Ji was still looking for that bastard Lin Zhao, when suddenly he spotted Chen Mina way in the back, phone to her ear. She looked a bit frustrated, and right away the fat guy saw an opportunity, man. Smooths out his shirt, adjusts his belt, and heads over to her. He comes in already asking if the signal's bad during this emergency. It's closer and wants to know who she's trying to call. She glances without much concern and says she's calling her manager to tell her to leave, making it clear, man, that she wasn't interested in talking to him. But the fat guy introduces himself as Mao Ji, and he owned half the businesses in the Pudong region. Had she ever heard of the Red Sea Group? Chen Mina completely ignores him, and he forces a smile. Suddenly, he snatches the phone from her hand. She demands it back angrily, but he says he's just trying to make sure he gets a little of her attention. While playing with the phone, he says it's not every day you run into an Olympic medalist. He heard her performance was amazing, and he's excited to see it. But Chen Mina just stretches out her hand and tells him to give it back now. Mao Ji, though, keeps going as if she hadn't said anything, explaining that in his line of work, things are a bit different. He knows all kinds of people, politicians, celebrities, even other athletes. He leans in and warns her that it's good for her to know that in a city like this, where he runs things, she could disappear. Chen Mina, however, just wanted to get her damn phone back. Meanwhile, up on the 99th floor, Lin Zhao was relaxed in his armchair, champagne in hand, looking out the panoramic window. On the city's horizon, the first signs of disaster had begun. Far off, where a clear sky should be, a dark line of water was advancing over Shanghai. He knew everything was about to be swallowed. While 99 floors below, the party was turning into a mess. Everyone was already drunk, stumbling and shouting. A middle-aged businessman stumbled out, phone in hand, saying he was leaving. He exits Palace 64 with the cool breeze hitting his face. He was so drunk he couldn't even walk straight, but the taxi arrived quickly. However, just as he opened the door, he heard a strange sound. Water. Looking to the side, a massive wave was turning the corner. The taxi was slammed and the car landed right on top of the man. He didn't even have time to scream. The water just swallowed everything. The impact made the building shake again, and in the lobby, the chandeliers swayed and crashed to the floor. Glass shards everywhere, and the lights went out once more. The emergency lights came on, bathing everything in red. Water began entering, spinning the doors and shattering the glass. In seconds, everyone's feet were already soaked. The Mylan immediately screamed and told everyone to run to the emergency stairs, warning that the priority was to get to the higher floors. Right away, panic took over, and it was everyone pushing and slipping, trying to climb up. Chen Mina broke free from Mao Ji and ran for the elevator. She presses the button, but hears no sound of anything moving. Clearly, it wasn't working. She turns to go to the emergency stairs, but out of nowhere, Mao Ji appears, pulls her, and throws her to the ground. Without even looking back, he opens the door ahead and runs up the stairs. Meanwhile, up on the 99th, Lin Zhao watched everything through the cameras. The lobby was in complete chaos. Mao Ji had been the first to reach the stairs, but the water was rising fast. He notices on one of the screens at the emergency exit, where Chen Mina was on the floor after being thrown down by Mao Ji. The panic kept spreading while everyone stumbled and fell. Xiaojing tried to force his way through and grabbed his sister's arm so they could go. He told her to run, pulling her, saying they had to go up. But as they reached the door, Xiao King saw Chen Mina kneeling on the floor. The poor girl was still trying to get up. Their eyes met for a second, and you could see that Chen Mina was in some kind of pain or something had happened to her ankle, which she was holding. But man, Xiao King only hesitated for a moment, then turned her back and ran up with her brother. The chain maiden, Chen Mina, tried to call for help, but too late, man. With that, she started trying to pull herself up using the railing, but the ankle wasn't helping. The pain in her legs snapped again. She fell back down. The water didn't stop rising, but she couldn't move. Far ahead, Xiao King and Jiang completely ignored her cries and kept going up. That's when Liu Mylan appeared with one of the last groups of guests and started leading everyone up the steps. She stops when she sees Chen Mina, calls out to her, and runs over asking if she can walk. Chen Mina shakes her head, gritting her teeth, saying that unfortunately, she twisted her ankle. And then Liu Mylan, without hesitating, throws her over her shoulder and tells her to lean in. They were going up together. With that, the two start climbing, and every step was a battle with that girl and her busted ankle. They were both already freezing, with the water probably already waist-high down there. Chen Mina held on tight to Liu Mylan's shoulder while her other hand clung to the railing, On the 5th floor, it became clear that the water wasn't rising anymore. Finally, the flooding was completely left behind by the 6th. They were exhausted, soaked, but at least safe, for now. And with every floor they climbed, more and more people showed up. Mao Ji enters the ballroom on the 10th floor. Looks like he had been banging on the emergency door for a long time and it wouldn't open no matter what. The chubby guy was soaked in water and sweat, cursing that damn door he had kicked. That party room looked more like a luxury casino. Poker tables, slot machines, and a full bar. That's because in Palace 104, the entire 10th floor was a themed ballroom. Maoji comes in right away, leaving soaked footprints. And right after that, Xiao King and Xiao Jing arrive. They stumble in equally drenched men. Xiao Jing immediately calls out to Mao Ji, saying the water downstairs rose crazy fast. Mao Ji's expression changes right away and he tells him to listen. The passage to the 10th was sealed and a bunch of survivors would arrive soon. They had to take control of this place before things got complicated. Not long after, more and more survivors started arriving. Everyone with pale faces, soaked clothes, and some collapsing right to the floor. People were terrified. At last came Liu Mailin and Chen Meinan, still carrying the girl man, ankle completely swollen, and of course, everyone noticed right away. That casino had turned into a total mess. Everyone fighting for space, others looting the bar looking for anything to eat, while other groups just sat in shock. In the middle of all that chaos, suddenly, the sound of a gunshot echoed. Everyone froze. Then they saw Maoji standing on top of a poker table with a gun pointed at the ceiling. He yelled, telling everyone to pay attention, and announced that from now on, he was in charge here. They needed food, water, medicine, and anything they could find. They better start forming groups and head down to the floors that hadn't flooded yet before the water rose higher. Suddenly, he used a fake little smile and tells them not to worry. Of course, they were going to divide everything equally. They just had to hold out through the night, since tomorrow the water would probably start to go down and everyone would come out alive and fine. But another executive, soaked and laughing, tells the fat guy to go fetch it himself, wanting to know who said he was king now. Bullet to the head, man. Right then, Maoji kills the first one. Everyone screams in panic, but they all go silent the moment he points the gun at everyone again, asking who wants to know if he's the king. Obviously, no one answers. He just says that if that's the case, then they better go ahead and start forming groups to go get supplies. Everyone runs to obey, right man, fear moving every step. Off in a corner, Mailin finds a first aid kit behind the bar and is tending to Chen Mina's ankle. Reading her teeth, she thanks her while Mailin tightens the bandage. The survivors gather, all trembling, terror stamped on their faces, while Maoji sits in the armchair like the king of the place, just watching while the groups who went down return carrying bottles and bottles of supplies, snacks from the machines, blankets from the suits, everything placed at his feet. Xiao King, all crook, hands over a little towel with a twisted smile, saying that this was what she managed to get. Meanwhile, 89 floors above, Lin Zhao checks the time. It was getting kind of late, so he turned on the room heater. He prepared a perfect steak in the kitchen and sat down to eat. After that, he yawned and went to bed smiling, unbothered by the suffering everyone else was going through. Morning sun hit Shanghai, only now it was flooded with a strange tone. Once full of life, now dirty, water stretching to the horizon. The peaks of skyscrapers looked like lonely islands in the middle of the sea. A man clung to a floating billboard man. He had spotted the top of a building and was trying to swim to reach it. But in a single instant, something passed under him. In a violent strike, the man was pulled down and his scream was silenced beneath the waves. Meanwhile, high above, a commercial airplane was circling, engines shaking. That's because the pilot had been trying to find a runway since last night, but there was only water. Fuel was already running low. With no options, he attempted an impossible landing on the rooftop of one of the few buildings still above water. Obviously, it was a total failure and the plane was submerged while the explosion sent water flying into the sky. Up on the 99th, Lin Zhao stretched while sunlight passed through the curtains. After a hot shower, he made coffee and some eggs, calmly eating while watching flood news on his tablet. Right after breakfast, he moved on to his set of push-ups, calmly counting each one. 89 floors below, the survivors huddled in fear and cold. Near the vending machines, a man handed out the last portions of snacks and announced that, unfortunately, that was it. There was no more food in that place. The panic of the moment infected everyone. Obviously, Maoji had kept most of the supplies for himself. At that moment, he was standing at the door of a VIP suite, staring at Chen Mena asleep on the bed. He checked out her body in detail, and when he realized no one was watching, he slowly closed the door and entered. As soon as he took his first steps, she woke up startled and scooted to the headboard, asking in a panicked voice what he was doing there. Maoji calmly said he was there to take care of their VIP guest, the only person who hadn't even needed to gather resources. With that, he grabbed her ankle, making her scream in pain. She told him to let go, trying to kick him in the stomach with her other leg, but he just pulled off his coat, telling her to be quiet because nobody was going to help her in this place. Everyone was too busy trying to survive. He began taking off his shirt while she was screaming, but strangely, there were other screams in the hallway, muffling everything. Suddenly, the door burst open and Xiao Jing entered pale, saying they needed to get out of there now. There was something strange in that hallway, looked like a monster. Some survivors said they saw it coming up from the flooded stairs. Right away, Maoji let go of Chen Mena and rushed past Xiao Jing to check the hallway. Right then, he saw the strange monster, a kind of human fish with green skin, sharp teeth, and slit pupils. Everyone was panicking, trying to hide, while many were already paralyzed. Mao-Zi started looking around, trying to find a way to escape. Right away, he spots an old man frozen in fear. Man. And in a single motion, he grabs the guy and throws him toward the creature, saying, "Here, eat this." The creature, which looked starved, immediately attacked the easiest target. While the beast was busy, Mao-Zi ran to the locked door leading to the upper floors. It was just a basic steel fire door, and now he had to make a decision. He only had 6 bullets in the gun, but he could try to use them to survive. Hearing the old man's screams as he was eaten, and afraid more creatures would show up, he fires the 6 shots, then tells the other guys nearby to hit the door, and everyone starts forcing it. Everyone pushes together until the metal gives with a loud groan. Mao-Zi immediately shoves Shou-Jing, nearly knocking him aside, and starts running up the stairs. Shou-Jing looks on, not happy about it. He sees Mao-Zi yelling for him to come on and running ahead. Obviously, the wave of panicked survivors starts trampling everything. Mylin was distracted helping another group of people, while Shou-Jing grabs her brother's arm and pulls him to go with her too. Man, everyone was fleeing up the stairs, all while hearing the sounds of the old man being devoured. Chen Mina, though, was still in the suite, holding her bandaged ankle. Groaning in pain, she pushed herself out of bed, heart racing, trying to understand what all the screaming was, and why now there was total silence. Afraid that Mao-Zi might come back and attack her, she decided it was best to leave. But as soon as she stepped into the hallway, what she saw froze her in place. About 6 meters away, the monster was hunched over the old man's body, ripping through flesh and bone like it was nothing. Its scaly skin was soaked in blood and water, its massive claws buried in the victim's chest. Kinbina pressed herself against the wall next to the elevator, trying to quietly edge away. Even her breathing was controlled to the absolute minimum. She was trying to ignore the pain in her ankle, but what she didn't see was a stray shoe on the ground, probably left behind by someone who had fled earlier. A tiny stumble makes the creature lift its head. The silence from earlier is shattered, and now the monster looks at her with a predatory glare. It stands up and lets out a weird sound, something like a shriek mixed with a roar, making her tremble. Chidmina just tells herself, "No way. There's no way I'm dying like this." She keeps walking along the wall, shoulder pressed against it, when suddenly, the monster lunges at her. Desperate, she looks around for anything to defend herself. She grabs a decorative vase from a side table man, knowing it'd be useless. What she hadn't noticed was that while backing along the wall, she had stopped right in front of the elevator man, and just then, the doors open. Startled, she loses balance and falls inside the cabin. The monster's attack slashes through the air where she was just a second before. The doors, strangely, close extremely fast. The creature lands a strike, but she only hears the echo outside. Chedmina backs away inside the elevator until she hits the wall, her heart pounding, struggling to catch her breath. Not understanding what's happening, she wonders how this is even possible. The power had been out for hours, and yet she was there, alive, in a lit elevator that seemingly saved her life. Then the cabin starts shaking and rising. Too tired and scared to stand, she stayed right there on the floor, man, staring at the door, her ankle throbbing and her mind racing with questions. Where was she going? Who had managed to bring that elevator at the exact right time? And how did that door close so fast? She kept her eyes on the panel as it passed 13, 25, 40, 60. Her breathing slowly calmed as the danger below faded away. But now she was getting anxious and tense. Back pressed to the wall, eyes glued to the numbers, man. 80, 90, 95. The ascent began to slow as it approached the 99th floor. Imagining something might be waiting for her, she looked around. But in that minimalist cabin, there was nothing. The elevator stopped smoothly, and the display showed 99. But the soft sound, the doors opened and showed